Welcome to very late night tarot, insomnia edition. So I tried to go to sleep tonight and I was hit by a whole lot of adrenaline. And I know for me personally that has to do with some health things that are going on. But the energy doesn't feel entirely dissimilar to full moon energy. If some of you can relate to how that can really get you feeling a little extra wired, a little zippy, a little unsettled, kind of out of your norm. And I've been feeling the energy to do some card readings here for a couple days. It's been building up. So I want to go ahead and just do something pretty simple tonight. And I'm going to leave the topic up to the cards. And I'm using my the two decks that I am currently resonating the very most with. So we've got the Steampunk Tarot, and then it's by Kim Kranz. I think it's the Wild Unknown Animal deck. I think that's what it's called. It's popular. If you've been on YouTube with tarot readings any amount of time, you've probably seen this. So these two are my OG. So let's get into some general energies first. And this is all skippable if you want to skip it, but this is just going to kind of tap in, settle in to see maybe what's going on for some of the collective that's here that's not specific to the topic. Let's just kind of fish around. And this definitely seems appropriate for insomnia. So the moon reversed and the Five of Swords reversed. So this is definitely confirming something that I had been thinking about doing, not necessarily as a series, but as an ongoing feature. So I noticed that there are a lot of card readings on YouTube, which that's kind of a complete statement right there. There are a lot of card readings on YouTube, but there are a lot of card readings on YouTube that are just kind of like general consumption is the best way that I can put it. It doesn't really niche down to any particular audience. Sometimes you'll get like twin flame groups, stuff like that, where that's a little bit more specific. But for the most part, it's just anybody and everybody who's coming on here who wants a card reading. Here's your card reading. And something that's been on my mind for a while is to additionally offer pick-a cards and other, channeled readings, that sort of thing. They're specifically targeted towards other card readers. And I don't mean that to exclude anybody, but it's meant to be able to approach certain topics and things with that audience in mind and just say, okay, we're thinking about certain things in a certain way and you're experiencing certain things in a certain way. You have a particular perspective, and I'm just going to take a shortcut and speak to that and not try to speak to everybody. I'm not going to over-explain certain things, and I'm going to get deeper into other stuff that maybe wouldn't be as friendly for a general audience simply because of what you're used to doing with the craft. So this is confirming it already that this is going to be that type of reading. So we'll go ahead and do a little experiment and see how that goes. So with the moon reversed and Five of Swords reversed, what I'm getting here is an energy of people who want clarity, but they're really tired of fighting for it. And so they're kind of saying, I'm choosing clarity by walking away from the situation. And I'm just going to, whether temporarily or for good, I'm putting it to rest and just saying, I don't need an answer anymore, not because I got my answer, but because I'm no longer looking for an answer. I am withdrawing my desire for an answer. We're getting rid of that. I'm done. It's almost like, if you see this card upright, it's like this lady is coming in and she's looking at the sword and this guy seems to be selling swords or something along those lines. And with it reversed, I just got this feeling of her coming to him and being like, you know what? I want to return this. Get me out of this loop. I'm done with this. Take the sword back. Give me my money. I'm on my way. So with this energy, let me get one of the animal oracle cards. And my intention is for just one. I don't want to channel too deep yet because I know we're probably going to go pretty deep on the individual piles. So give me a focus for the topic. This one wants to come out. The raccoon, more of that nighttime imagery. And so it continues. So this is going to sound like a familiar topic. It's like who's thinking about you / who's spying on you, who's trying to get more information on you. And I know that that is a very familiar topic as far as, in title. That's something that we're used to, seeing in pick-a cards. That's not uncommon. This is specifically coming from the standpoint, though, of it's kind of like who has those energetic tendrils in you. And this isn't necessarily somebody who is overtly spiritual or understands what they're doing. But when you get used to, getting into spirituality and intuition and all of those things, you can start to understand when you're feeling something or somebody pulling on your energy. And sometimes it kind of like almost gets stuck. And even when you're doing energy clearing or even cord cutting, it just kind of seems like it sticks around and it's hard to shake. Sometimes it's a person and you're just like, why are you here? I don't want you around in my energy. I don't even, think about you that way. I don't care about you to that degree. Why are you coming up as so important in my energy? So this is this feeling of, for those who are, on the receiving end, are very used to being all up in your intuition, all up in, even your cards, trying to solve problems, trying to see what's going on. Where is this energy coming from? Where is this stuck energy? Is it a person? Is it something else? Let's dig a little bit deeper to see what's going on with who is focusing on you and, who's trying to spy on you maybe, whether that's social media, whether that is pick-a cards, or just, in general, who's up in your business energetically and what's going on. So I'm going to set these aside so we don't repeat them right away. So let me I'm feeling 3 piles. I don't know if I have the energy to do more than that because I tend to go long on my card readings. I tend to go very long on my card readings. It's kind of a miracle if I can keep it short. Okay, so we've got 1 so far. We've got Knight of Wands reversed. We've got another jumper. Nine of Cups. And I have attempted to lay out, I have just set up a new desk. I have attempted to lay this out so it's focused, like centered in the camera and all that. I can't stand up to check it while I'm shuffling. So please excuse me if things are not perfectly centered. I'm gonna check here in a minute. This one's jumping. You know what, let's do 4. Alrighty, this is a fun combination. And our 4th. Okay. Interesting. Getting spicy already. These aside so they can be worked back in. Okay, let me check on the camera. Hey, that's pretty centered. Nice. All right. Good job, me. Okay. So we've got the Knight of Wands reversed. We've got the Nine of Cups. We've got the Tower. We have the 8 of Wands. So I will go ahead and encourage you to choose a pile in whatever way you feel most comfortable. You're going to have timestamps. You're going to have, the visuals. You got options. Pause it if you need. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump in. All right. So pile 1. And I am not going to try to read off of your initial card. That is something I'm going to say. I'm not going to try to read off the initial card. So if you get a message off of the card that this pile was for, you take that. That's for you to interpret. I'm not going to. I'm mixing it back into the deck, and I'm going to use the whole deck all over again. So what's coming out first here is the wolf. So this is already wanting to go pretty deep. So this is going to get into your deeper emotions. And this is, again, going to be a little bit of a departure from a normal pick a card in that way that we're going to dive in pretty hot and heavy. If it gets to be too much, if it gets to be too triggering, take a step back. We're not here to flood your nervous system. We're not here to dig into things that you're not ready for, even if it's resonating. Just understand that, you know, this is already coming through, that we're going to be going pretty deep into some emotional stuff of some of your journey. So if you're here for the ride, you know, hang on. Might get a little bit rocky. You're welcome to check out another pile if you want, or another reading, depending on what time you're finding my channel, if I have other readings up that are of interest to you. But the wolf. So what's starting here is you have the perception that the person in your energy is a masculine figure that most likely is either a love interest or somebody that you would see as being like a peer level. So like maybe a soulmate, kind of a counterpart, not somebody who you're significantly older than or who is significantly older than you, somebody who feels like they're kind of on your general level in terms of like life and all of that, where there's like a potential for partnership compatibility, even if it isn't romantic. It's kind of, you know, that age range or whatever. You are perceiving that energy is coming through that channel, but it is not actually that. What's happening here is energy that's coming through from your relationship with your father and the way in which you perceived him as being mature masculinity when you were a child. And so the blueprint that he laid down is now echoing into your present moment. And you're feeling like you're being anchored to maybe a particular person or even to a particular process. And by process, for some people, you might identify that as like the twin flame journey. For other people, you might look at a process and say, like just ascension, healing. For some people, depending on, you know, what your relationship is, not even spiritually speaking, but your relationship with men, you might be decentering men right now. Something along those lines where there's some sort of process going on with you, whether you're releasing a soulmate to see if they come back to you, twin flame journey, something like that, healing yourself around masculine wounds, especially romantic relationships, all of that. That energy is kind of swirling around, but it's actually being rooted right now, most in the blueprint that you got of your father when you were a little girl. And that is the part of you that wants to come forward and be addressed in this. So this reading is going to be a little bit interesting in that it's going to kind of come from the perspective of your younger self speaking to you. So instead of it being mostly like your energy mirroring back to you, or my energy trying to mirror something back to you, or your guides, or, you know, it's not going to be so much that as it is really an internal mirror. Younger self telling you the stories about what's happening subconsciously for you. So it can come to light, come to the surface, and you can begin to move that energy effectively. So what is the story here with your father and your perception of him and how it's anchoring into your current time? Yep, okay. There's definitely a little bit of a sticky energy here. So if you do feel yourself getting a little bit activated emotionally, it's okay to, whether you want to hit pause or just take a moment to take a deep breath or two, ground into your body. That's perfectly fine. It's normal to feel a lot of stuff coming up. I just don't want you to go in too much because I feel like some people might already be getting a little bit flooded. So, keep track of that because, again, we're not here to hype up your nervous system and send you into a really activated state because that's not going to be effective. That's not going to be healing. So you have the Eight of Swords reversed and the Six of Pentacles reversed. So the situation with your father, there was a specific incident that happened here with the Eight of Swords reversed. There's a specific incident, and it's going to be different for all of you, but it was one of the first times that you encountered cultural misogyny in the form of as a like AFAB child, as a femme-presenting, femme-raised child, you were suddenly hit by some sort of expectation that came in the form of limitation, where you did not understand why you were being told, no, you can't do something, and it was purely on the basis of gender. Like, you're a girl, the girls don't do that. That type of vibe. Even if it wasn't explicitly said, the quiet part may not have been said out loud, but this was something like super early on, like 3-4 years old, when you first got hit with, I'm just bopping along, doing my thing, being a little kid, being innocent, and somebody comes along and says, wait, you can't do that, and you catch the subtext that it's because you're a girl. And this throws off your energy, where now you are on the back foot, and it introduces a defensiveness and a wounding in your energetic field. And it creates a bit of a soul wound pattern around what misogyny does when we are internalizing those messages to try to make ourselves smaller and more pliable, quote unquote, more feminine. All the ways that we're told to make ourselves less and to be, as soft as possible. It's coming through a defensive state instead of just like a natural, actual relaxing into it type of state. This is this energy here. And when you went into that state of fear and, stress response, trauma response, because you were suddenly being told there's a thing you can't do, and your little kid brain did register that it was unfair. You didn't have the capacity to fully reason out why, but you understood it wasn't fair. You felt that. You knew that. And so when you're suddenly introduced with that unfairness and all the adults around you just kind of going along with it, if not encouraging it or being the one saying this thing to you, that puts you into a state of abandonment where you're saying, well, who's gonna protect me? Why am I suddenly not provided for? Why am I suddenly being hurt by the people that said that they were going to protect me? I'm feeling this abandonment wound, and I can tell something's unfair, but everybody's on board with it. Am I wrong for being upset about this? So your energy, you went and looked to your father as kind of like a plumb line almost of like, you could sense that there was, I'm not going to strictly say strength, but there was a sense of authority that you recognized in him. And because of that, you referenced that sense of authority, which again, this, different situations, different people, your father didn't have to be present for this to be happening. This could be more theoretical. This could be the perception of fathers that you have based on, seeing stuff in TV shows and movies, at friends' houses, and then projecting that idea onto your perception of your father. So this can go in many different directions. You didn't even have to have your father present for this. But you looked to your father and you said, what is happening with this authority figure? Is there justice here? Is there an offense that I need to be protected from? And he did not protect you. And if anything, he may have even reinforced the gendered harmful stereotypes that were coming to you that caused this disruption. And so it created in you this sense of, I don't have my equal give and take. And so I'm going to have to fill in the gaps here. I'm going to have to make up the difference. And there must be something either wrong with me, or I have to try harder to get back to that sense of safety that I'm longing for. And that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot to put on a little kid. Little kids aren't supposed to have to deal with that sort of stuff. That's not appropriate for kids. But that's, it's the world we live in, unfortunately. But so little kid you did your best to try to figure out how to balance the scales in a very one-sided way, where you did not have masculine energy rising to meet you in the way that you needed it to. And this applies even if you would look at your father and say, oh, he was a good father. He did good things for me. Because no matter how good he was, there's still something about this energy where he was passive in times when he really shouldn't have been passive. Times when he should have spoken up and called out misogyny for what it was and helped you as a little kid understand why what you were seeing was incorrect. Whether that was, in TV shows and movies, just casually on the street. It's kind of like everyday culture that we get kind of numbed out to, where it's sort of like maybe on some level we realize like, hey, husbands always making jokes about their wives being awful is not cool. That's not okay. And our daughters don't need to be hearing that crap. And, our sons don't either. Like, nobody needs to be hearing that, but like, especially our daughters don't need to be internalizing that sense of like, I am an object to be hated for using my voice, for wanting equal partnership out of my husband. And if I say something, I'm a nag, I'm a ball and chain, like those sorts of things. There were times like that where you encountered little tiny microaggressions like that constantly. And your father was not shielding you from that in the way that he needed to. And he was not setting a true example of that positive masculinity that was protective. Because it doesn't matter how much somebody is trying to love you, if they are not shielding you from the things that you need to be shielded from and empowering you in the face of injustice, then they're not really loving you the way that you needed to be loved. They might be trying to. They might be doing to the best of their ability, but it's falling short. And for a little kid where you don't get a chance to leave that relationship and you're completely dependent on your caretakers, that makes a huge difference. And so that's what's coming through right now, where you're trying to reconcile this energy pattern with things that are happening in your journey right now with peer level men. And this does not necessarily refer strictly to men in general. It could, but it's like you're digesting it through the lens of like men who might, like, potentially theoretically have actual roles in your life, such as partner, maybe coworker, I'm not necessarily sibling, I'm not necessarily feeling that, but like you're having this sense of either specific men or potential men in real tangible roles that you might encounter in your everyday life. And you're trying to process that through, and little kid you is still trying to fill in the gaps here of not getting the help that you needed when you needed it, where you felt like you were stuck. And the stuck energy also came with it a certain amount of learned helplessness, which that phrase is sometimes used in a way that's kind of shaming to trauma victims. And I'm not using that in a shaming way here. I'm using that in the sense of you had to give up your power to survive through these circumstances because, hello, you're a little kid. You can't just, get up and walk away and say, I don't tolerate this. I'm drawing a boundary. I'm leaving. You can't. You're a little kid. You're dependent on people. You're dependent on the society and community around you. You don't get a choice. So you learn to make yourself smaller. And in that you had to sacrifice some of your power and give away your confidence to go into this state of, I need to be hypervigilant and now figure out what's wrong and how to fix that. And I'm constantly juggling these balls of trying to keep it all up in the air of how do I keep people around me happy? How do I not cause offense? How do I fulfill this role in a way that allows the social gears to turn smoothly? How do I survive and how do I keep my head above water? And you're spending all this time doing that and you're not able to actually spend it being you or looking at these situations and being like, you know what, I actually can exit them. When you're older, when you have a chance, you're not in that state. You're in that, I have to stay here. Leaving isn't an option. Being saved isn't an option. Having any sort of equitable partnership is not an option. And that's a place that went from this theoretical sword energy into this pentacle energy. So it really grounded in. It's not just in your head. You are seeing it reflected in your world around you. And it's become very integral in the way that your day-to-day life functions. So it's not even something where you can just do a mindset shift and force yourself to just change how you're relating to something and then that's that. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that in terms of, actually doing the healing work. But it's also deeper in that because this is part of your everyday lived experience. And, not to quote the meme, but we live in a society. We live in a society. You can't just not participate in society. And so there's certain things that you're going to have to deal with no matter what. But what you're trying to do is figure out how to be more empowered to deal with that stuff in a healthy way. And kudos to you for being in that energy. But you're trying to do it while actively having the programming running inside of you to do the exact opposite. And you're trying to reconcile those two, your adult, more healed mindset. You're trying to reconcile that with that inner child programming to fawn and just capitulate to what's being, what's being asked of you and just, go with the flow, don't make waves. And that's really hard. And that causes a ton of cognitive dissonance. And that crap's awful. And you don't just experience that in your mind or your emotions, you also experience that through your body because your emotions flow through your body. It's a holistic experience, which again, here down into the pentacles. So it's very deep stress to try to process through. And right now you've been trying to process it more on the upper conscious levels of what you're seeing directly in front of you. But this reading here is bringing to light, one, you're putting in a lot of effort. And if you aren't fully seeing the results you want, don't blame yourself in terms of saying, I'm not trying hard enough, or I just need to, keep my nose to the grindstone and eventually I'll get healed enough. It's you are trying the best you can from a certain angle, but there is more. There's a different approach that is being called for here in addition to what you're doing. And, you are putting in a valiant fight using what has been available to you. And you are not lacking in the effort that you're putting in. You're not lacking in, all the ways that you have been invested in your healing journey. It's not oh, you're not good enough or it hasn't been long enough. It's just that there are some additional tools and things. And this is an opportunity to see one of those avenues in that's going to help you. where it's go back to little kid you. If you are familiar with parts work, this would be a tremendous opportunity to explore that, especially if you have a trauma therapist or somebody else who is, trauma informed, a mental health professional who's trauma informed, who's comfortable with doing parts work to help you along that. Some people kind of tap into this through shadow work in different ways, but if you want like a really direct shortcut into a method that's going to like take you right there, parts work is the ticket. But this is really the crux of the issue with who's in your energy and what's up with that. It's you're seeing things in your present day with men. It's echoing back to your father, and then that's what's trapped in your energy because it's bringing up that triggering. So let's see if there's anything else that wants to come through here. Whoop. We got a little more. 2 more. Yeah, bingo. 2 cups reversed and the 4 of wands reversed. And I promise that this deck is not reversed. This deck is most definitely not reversed. Not the whole thing. Like it's a mix. So again, all these reversed energies coming out here is very telling to me. That you're fighting an uphill battle, but you're not just fighting an uphill battle in your healing journey, but you're coming to a place where the way in which you have been trying to move the energies is now contradictory to the healing path that you need to take. Which is not to say, oh, you're doing something wrong or you're doing something bad even. It's just saying that the method that you need is going to have to flow in a different direction. Which again, parts work is tremendous for being able to like change directions and move and flow with, where you are in your healing journey and what you're needing in that moment. It's a fantastic tool. Highly recommend. I will sing its praises until the sun burns out. So 2 cups and 4 wands. So again, you're dealing with this mirrored sense of you didn't get the loving partnership when you needed it to. So now your idea of present day partnership with a masculine energy it's not online in the way it needs to. And there's also a diminishment of hope that it can be like that. And then when it comes to the actual, realization of these energies, bringing it into an actual unified state where the rubber meets the road, what's the truth? You're not having this happy, celebration, people coming together. Instead, unfortunately, you're dealing with this sense of, I don't have unity and I have to pay the cost for things to be coming together. If a relationship is running smoothly, it comes at the price of my peace. It comes at the price of me doing the emotional labor, or it comes at the price of me making myself small, making my voice quiet, making me not actually show up to the situation and constantly cater to the other person and try to juggle their emotional needs, whether they're outright asking that of me or not. That just seems like the only way I can make it function and make those gears turn. I have to be playing a part. And that's not a place that you want to be in. It's not a place anybody wants to be in. And you don't deserve to be there. You deserve to be able to be free, happy, loved, have boundaried love, boundaried relationships. Let me go ahead. Where's the direction of the resolution energy here? And this is not going to be a total solution here because again, this is deeper emotional work that you're going to have to do, and it's going to be individual to all of you. But where is the direction here? It is not upside down. See, bottom of the deck. I got another reversal. Bottom of the deck, 3 of swords upright. So you can see we're not all upside down here. Yep. 8 of Cups upright, King of Pentacles upright. Of course, they're sticking together, so I'm just getting reversals. Yeah, I just saw that. 7 of Wands upright. So we are not all reversed, and yet here we are once again. Page of Wands reversed is our energy for a path forward. So you're going to be tempted to use a voice of shame against your inner child to try to get them to fall in line and hurry up and act like a little adult. Which sounds kind of harsh, but that's how we've been conditioned to treat our inner children, unfortunately. That's how we've been conditioned to speak to ourselves. Like in psychology, we talk about the inner critic. This is a very negative voice that was forced upon you, that you felt you had to adopt for yourself to survive. And you're going to be tempted to try to strong arm yourself into, like, hurry up and don't act like that. Hurry up and don't feel that. Like, you're not allowed to do that. That's bad. And we know better now, so we have to do better. We have to fall in line. We got to hurry up and heal and just not do this thing. And this is saying you can't take it too fast. And you can't force that to happen. All this fire energy is pent up. And in part because you haven't been allowed to express your energy. Your fire was taken from you and stolen from you. And now that fire is getting redirected towards making yourself small instead of being expansive. So it's very natural for some of that fire to want to lash back on you, unfortunately. So this is just a reminder. Be gentle with yourself. Be compassionate. Understand that the voice that you use to speak to yourself might be harsher than you perceive it to be right now. And again, that doesn't mean that you're bad or you're failing. It just means if you are discovering that, then it means that you are feeling safe enough to be able to see that about yourself so that you can begin to heal it. So if you discover that there's harshness there, allow yourself to sink into that as another opportunity to heal and be more gentle with yourself. Take it slow, allow it to develop over time, and understand that your younger self is in fact a younger self. Even if you're not young right now, this young part of you still exists as part of your overall experience. And even if your adult mind can process things in a different way, your child self is going to be moving through a childlike dimension in relation to these traumas and patterns. And so you're going to have to give yourself space to move through it and process it emotionally on some childlike levels, so that you can begin to allow, it's like, almost think of it like a thread, kind of like this imagery here of the intertwining, energies of the yin yang symbol. You're going to have to let this energy that's like started all the way in your past, all the way up through to your future, you're going to have to let that untangle with time, a bit chronologically even. Not strictly speaking, but you can kind of think about it that way, where like little kid you is going to have a version of untangling it that adult you is not going to have. And so as you're working with little kid you're going to have a different experience with healing this energy than adult you has with strictly your present day stuff, as opposed to even like teenage you or preteen you. Like, you're going to have these different segments of your life where it's going to hit different. So give yourself a chance to unravel this energy and heal it based on where it is with the age that you're working at. And, just let it happen. Let it be what it is. Let yourself be how you are, so you can genuinely feel the emotions that you're feeling and genuinely be able to see what's going on, so you can lovingly, compassionately embrace yourself where you are. And begin to find the resources that you need, not the version of you that you think you should be, or the version of yourself that you feel like you need to be, but the version that you actually are. So you can find those resources and begin to heal and continue working through that. So, pile 1, this is what I got for you. This wasn't what I thought was going to happen exactly, but this feels like what needed to happen. So, thank you for sticking around. If this helped you, a like would be amazing. Follows are encouraged. I'd love to read for you again, and I appreciate you letting me work with your energy and trusting me to speak on these deeper topics here with you. So if you want to stick around for any other piles, you are welcome to do so. This, isn't necessarily restricted to, only one applies for a person in situations. Like, no, you can have multiples. But if I don't see you later on, thank you for joining me. Have a great rest of your day or night, wherever you are. And hopefully I'll see you again sometime. All right, get that back in. All right, so pile 2. I'm going to repeat the same little bit that I did for pile 1. The card that you initially chose for this pile, I am not going to be reading that directly in. If you want to incorporate that into your reading, you are more than welcome to do so. But that would be something where, if you see it, if you feel an energy, let that be your interpretation. I am going to just jump in with the full deck. And we're going to let this flow. This isn't necessarily even going to end up structured exactly like the other readings. I'm going to kind of let this go in the way that's going to make sense here. It was a nice little energy clear. I don't know if you felt that, but there's a little release that just happened. Nope. I wanted to come out. Alrighty. There we go. There's our High Priestess. Okay. So I'm already getting with this. So you are feeling the need to be defensive, and it's not in like a negative ego-based defensive way. It really is this feeling of I'm so sorry. It's like I need to be in my power and I need to assert my power. And it's like you have very real, tangible reasons for that. It's not like you're, going off on somebody just to go off on them or causing problems or anything crazy. Like you're not out of line for this. You have reasons for this, but you're feeling very vulnerable right now and you're feeling very alone. And so it's like you're having to be this tiger energy. And like, I gotta fully stand in my power because if I don't, nobody else is. So let's see what's going on with that. Let's see what's going on with that. Because it also has kind of the feeling of like it's not just like a person, but it's like a whole group of people that are up in your energy. If not just like society in general, maybe something along those lines where it's like, maybe it has something to do with, maybe you're a marginalized group and you're dealing with increased violence or the increased threat of violence or something like that. And so you're feeling it on a systemic level and on a broader social level. So it could be something like that. It could be a workplace, could be a family issue, it could be something like that. But it's almost like there's a whole group of people to the point where it feels almost like they're faceless, like there're just too many of them. And what's important is not who they are individually, but the threat that they collectively pose to you. That's the vibe. Almost like a tiger crouching in the grass, except it's not grass, it's just a sea of people. And it's like, if I try and look big and strong in this sea of people against me, maybe I'll, look like the odd one out and they'll look at me like I'm the predator, I'm the thing to be afraid of instead of ganging up on me, It's that type of feeling. Okay, so I'm going to draw this a little bit differently. Nobody wants to pop out here. So I'm going to intuitively go until I stop. Your pile wants me to draw them by hand. There we go. Let's start with those 3. Okay. More reversals. Okay, thank you. Pile 1 was all reversals. And this deck is not like flipped. Like I have a mix in here of upright and reversal. So we have the Devil reversed, we have the Hermit reversed, and we have the Page of Swords upright. Thank you for being upright, somebody. So with this, there is a temptation to run away from your true emotional process in this. And it feels like some of it is a pattern in terms of how you relate to stress and trauma, but some is just like a healthy, normal level of trying to dissociate from what's happening because there's just so much stress. There's just so much going on that you're trying to like not be totally lost in the sauce of what's happening in your life. So you're trying to distance yourself emotionally from like the day-to-day experience. Otherwise, it's just gonna like completely grind you down. But unfortunately, the way that that's coming through is that you're kind of spiraling a little bit and you're trying to deflect and say, it's almost like you're over here saying, well, I'm in hot water with maybe my boss, or I'm in hot water with some sort of authority figure where you're stuck and you don't really have a choice but to have to do what they say. It's like, well, I'm in hot water with this because of XYZ. And maybe it's something legitimately you've been cutting corners or doing something that you maybe shouldn't have really been doing, or at least shouldn't have been according to the rules. We know that, life is not always black and white. And rules are not always just, and rules don't always make sense, and rules don't always reflect the lived experience of people in those situations. And so sometimes rules are not nearly as applicable as they make themselves out to be, or as the consequences reflect. So it could be that you were having to color outside the lines on something because that's just literally the circumstances that you were in, and then you started getting caught, and you're having to deal with consequences. And even though the consequences weren't just for these circumstances, they were technically correct when you were looking at like the letter of the law or the letter of job policy or something like that, where it's kind of like, yeah, I'm in trouble and I guess I kind of deserved it, whatever. And it's like you're deflecting into this energy of some sort of something. It's kind of giving an institutional vibe more than anything. It's like, I'm in trouble over here, or things aren't great here, or whatever. And it's like, yeah, my fault. Like that's on me. And it's like you're defaulting into that energy because it's the easiest way to try to kind of just accept that it is what it is. And you're going to have to face this, even if it's not just, even if it isn't fair, even if you're, still dealing with life being really difficult in ways that it shouldn't be. You're just kind of like writing it off. It's like, oh, well, it is what it is. I'm stuck here. And, that's what the rules say. And I broke the rules and now I'm being caught. So I guess this is what it is. It's that type of vibe of like, I'm getting what I deserve, even though, on a deeper level, you don't actually really deserve this because the circumstances aren't correct. The circumstances aren't fair. And so you don't actually deserve this. It's just the prescribed consequences within a system set up to be unfair in the way it doles out consequences. But the way that you're deflecting into that, part of it is also because you don't want people that you do care about, like people whose opinions you actually do care about. It's like you don't want to have to see them judging you negatively. Like, it really is coming through, and this is not going to be for everybody, but really is coming through, like, as an example. I keep coming back to workplace environment, like you got in trouble with a boss for doing something that everybody does, and it's not necessarily bad, but it's just something that everybody does, and it's kind of like an unspoken rule that, like, yeah, we're technically not supposed to do this, but it works, and we're not doing this in a way that is unjust on the system. We're just doing it because this is what actually works. But you were the one that got caught. And it's like you're trying to just deflect and say, okay, well, it is what it is. I got in trouble. I broke the rules. And it's because you don't want the people that you do care about, like maybe a coworker you have a crush on, to see you and look down on you for having gotten in trouble. It's like you don't want to have to see, you don't want to have to deal with the shame, and you don't want to see the disappointment or rejection in their eyes of them maybe seeing you differently. So you're kind of like rejecting caring about that before you have a chance to feel rejection. And again, like part of it's patterning that you're dealing with, but also some of it's just normal dissociation from dealing with extremely stressful circumstances. Not all dissociation's bad. Some of it's just normal. Some of it's part of how we process trauma in stages instead of having to get hit with all of it at once. And that's a healthy thing. We're not supposed to have to deal with all of it all at once. It's overwhelming to us. It's not helpful. It's not possible to process trauma like that. It has to come in stages. So I'm not like over here like harping on you for this or trying to say, oh, you got to change this. But it is important that you're aware of that process so that as you're able to kind of work through these energies, you're not staying stuck in that, and you understand that there's a little bit of a deflection process that's happening for you. And at some point, this will have to ground out and become a little bit more real with yourself. That's like you're dealing with unjust expectations, and that was the issue, rather than the fact that you maybe stepped out of line in a particular way. But you still have a lot of shame over the fact that you did it, and the fact that you got caught, or somehow, somebody's pointed a finger at you in some way. And that's giving you this feeling of like, oh God, I deserved it. I knew it this whole time. I'm deserving of the shame. I'm a bad person. Like, all this negative stuff starting to come up inside. It's like, that's not the whole story. That's not for you to bear. Like there was unjust stuff that you were dealing with, and you were doing the best that you could. So the Hermit reversed here is like, it's like this sense of like, I don't want to be seen by the people that I actually care about. I don't want them to see me and see that I did something wrong and I'm like getting in trouble for it, and then have them reject me and think less of me. So I'm going to like try to say I don't care about that, or I'm just going to like lean into what happened so that I don't have to care about their opinion about what happened. So this is like, I don't want to be alone. And so I'm going to be alone so I don't have to be alone, which is kind of an odd thing, because if you think about it, this paradox does have a basis. So the Hermit goes on this journey alone so that they can, gain this wisdom, gain this insight, and they eventually come back from their journey, and they come back, bearing the fruits of all of this time alone. This is like kind of like doing the opposite, where it's like, I'm going to, instead of taking time to sit with the full reality of what happened, because I'm needing to dissociate because it's too much, instead of sitting with the full reality like I would with a normal hermit's journey, I'm going to say, nah, whatever. It is what it is. I'm getting what's coming to me, whatever. And it's that whatever energy that's saying, I need to hurry up and not be alone. I need to be at this coming back stage, so I'm going to skip the trip. And I'm going to reject other people's opinions so that I don't have to feel like I'm losing my relationship with other people, because I need to stay connected. And even if I have to be more emotionally distant, at least I'm close to them instead of feeling completely cut off from them. And that's most important to me right now. So where this is going into this Page of Swords is this feeling of like, this has been a longer standing pattern, where it's like after the heat of the situation is dying down, you're left with this feeling of like, yeah, I've been through this before. I've been through this sort of situation before, and the loneliness is going to catch up to you. That lack of emotional intimacy is going to catch up to you. And you're going to be at a bit of a crossroads of having to choose, am I going to try to press forward based on like a strictly intellectual understanding of how to cope with this, where I'm gonna stay emotionally distant and like push away my heart space and continue with this like head first style? Or am I going to stop and kind of like retrace my steps and start to pick up the pieces that I had skipped the first time? Hold on. All right, I just had an interruption from one of my cats, my female cat actually, which is interesting because I had read this as being the high priestess. So I thought that was interesting. So you're at this crossroads as to how you're going to deal with this. And something that came to mind while I was taking care of my cat was part of this Page of Swords energy is also interpreted in looking into pick cards like this one to try to get some answers. And something that's been bouncing around in my head for a few hours that I knew was going to come out in some form at some point, but I feel like it's going to be helpful for you in this reading, especially with this card. And I thought it was interesting when this came out. Along the lines of the High Priestess, along the lines of tarot readers and all of that. So the sort of tarot readers that you gravitate toward, that you feel like you resonate with, typically reveal kind of like your Lilith energy. If you want to like do an astrology reference, these are the ones that are going to show like more of the version of that like sacred, empowered, feminine high priestess energy that you feel like you want to embody. And that is for better or for worse. It depends on how you have met that part of yourself, if it is completely in shadow or if you've been integrating it. That's your journey. That's for you to determine. But the sort of readers that you gravitate towards are going to reveal where you are in relation to your own sense of autonomy, rebellion from societal pressures, for your ability to stand in your power and effectively defend yourself, to feel capable, to feel confident, to feel like you know what you're doing, what direction you're going. You are going to look for tarot readers that are going to be reflecting back to you what you think you need to be embodying. So that is something to keep in mind as you are looking for discernment and you are trying to find which direction to go in with this situation, because I have not very explicitly been wording it this way, but who is in your energy? It's this group, and it's your sense of your perception of them. That's who is in your energy. So as you're looking for understanding of what direction you're going to go in and how you're going to go into it in response to this emotional process, as you're processing, what happened, letting it, play through your emotions. If you're looking at tarot readers like myself, please be conscious of whether or not you are interacting with them from a place of true sovereignty, true energetic sovereignty, or if you are trying to lean on them to become not just an inspiration, not just an affirmation, not just an example, but if you're trying to vicariously live through their energy of what they are embodying. Because if you are trying to vicariously live through somebody else's emotional state, it might make you feel better in the short term, but it is going to hinder your ability to process through what you're actually processing through, because you're trying to kind of like put on a mask and temporarily become them without actually sitting with yourself and your truth and your realities. And It's a thing where it's like you're in parallel trying to process your stuff, but it's almost like, how would this person process my situation instead of how would I process my situation if I had more of these traits active in me that I'm valuing in this other person. And so that there is a difference there, unfortunately, because it can feel so much more gratifying to do it in the way where it's like trying to live vicariously through somebody else's energy. But that is something that, it can be rooted in different things, but at the end of the day, no matter where it's coming from, this is a call to make sure that you're coming home to yourself and that you are truly making a home with yourself. And it's not just a place that you return to where you store a collection of facts about yourself, bits and pieces of personality and different things like that. It's like, no, you and yourself are supposed to be a home base for yourself, for your energy, for your experiences. You are a whole, complete person. And while you can get, helpful examples from other people in other situations, you are still yourself. And you are going to move through the world in a unique way. And you need to find what embodying those sorts of things looks like for you. And not just try to, find others to do it for you in a way, which is like, even saying it that way feels harsher than how it's meant to be, because this is not meant to be shaming at all. This is not meant to make you feel bad or create pressure around, you got to do it the right way. It's not that at all. It's just to say, be aware, especially within the tarot space, be aware that your shadow is always speaking to you, with regard to, who you're resonating with and what's going on with them. Because there are certain readers where you might resonate with them for a long time, and then after a while you heal to a point where you kind of look back at them and be like, that person has a lot of stuff in their energy that isn't quite fully aligned. And sometimes when I'm listening to their readings now, they will react in a way that doesn't feel like they're necessarily accurately channeling. It feels like they're emotionally reacting to something and they're projecting that onto my reading. And that doesn't really vibe with me anymore. I'm not sure if they're, maybe fully in their integrity at all times. Or maybe the way that they're interpreting the energies that they're feeling, maybe it's being too much colored by the limitations of their experiences and their understanding of things. And maybe they're going to kind of miss how to interpret what's actually happening here. And you're having to spend more and more time kind of translating what they're saying to see if it actually fits what's really going on with your energies. Because we can have this happen where you have a reading and you can tell that it's resonating. You can tell that the energies are locked in, but the reader just doesn't seem to be clicking with it. And it's it's right there. And you're trying to retranslate what's coming through because you can feel the energies, and you're going back through and reprocessing what they're saying a couple different times to try to scrub through to find the information that's actually pertinent to you and stuff like that, where be conscious of that even if you resonated with a reader at one point in time, doesn't mean you always will. And it doesn't mean that they're a human being. They grow and change. They go through emotional changes too. It might be a temporary thing. It may not be permanently oh, I've outgrown resonating with this reader or something like that, or we're just energetically going in very different directions. It isn't always a permanent thing. Sometimes it's temporary. You can always take a break from somebody, but be mindful of that how you once vibed with readers does not always serve you at all times moving forward. And sometimes that's limitations on the reader, just, as a human being, because none of us are perfect. Sometimes that's because you are becoming more sensitive to things inside of you that you are healing through and that you don't find helpful to have reflected back to you in a reader. So you're looking for a reader that is not dealing with certain things, who has healed past certain things themselves. But just understand that as a big picture, because this is coming in like, this is a twofold. So like, who's in your energy? Who's in your energy is like this community in this situation. It's also other readers. Be mindful of what those other readers are reflecting about you. And it's not always one-to-one. It's not always one-to-one where it's like, oh, this whoever I'm vibing with is a perfect mirror of my state. Like, no, that's not how it works. It's more complicated than that. It's more nuanced than that. But just keep in mind as you're trying to, like, as like how we started this whole reading, of like, you're trying to be big and strong and you're feeling like you need to defend yourself. So you're trying to like make yourself out to be this, you know, strong tiger in the grass. Like, don't mess with me, don't hurt me. I'm standing in my power. And it's like you're trying to inflate yourself into that. You don't feel like you're naturally in that state. You're having to like puff up and like try to maintain this. And there's like this tension to it as you're like trying to keep tense and tight and all like you think about a cat with its back arched almost. It's that type of like posturing. As you're putting forth this effort to try to feel strong, that also means that you're going to be leaning more and more into your shadow. So even more so, you're going to be, you know, any parts that are unhealed that you have not met within yourself are more likely to come up with in readings at this point. So that's, you know, that's a little warning right there. If you are prone to getting sucked in by like Delulu love readings, because I feel like we all go through that phase at some point, where you, you know, you have an itch that needs to be scratched and you need to find something that feels like meat that you can sink your teeth into. You're needing some sort of answers and they've got to come from somewhere. And whether it's a positive, whether it's a negative, you just need some sort of action. You need some sort of results from the tarot readings that you're going into. And so you might go to reading after reading after reading to find some sort of result. And it's kind of that like Delulu energy of like, I'm not going to stop until I found the thing, whether or not the thing is actually accurate at this point. I just need the emotional release. Like, I just need somebody to tell me something about my situation. It's that sort of feeling of like, if you were prone to that, that is going to be even more on the table if you were in the state of feeling defensive. And you were also more prone to be resonating with readers who are going to play into that energy. Because again, not all readers are going to, even if they're picking up on accurate energies, not all of them are going to be interpreting that energy the same way. And you know, a reader can only meet you kind of in a sense of, you know, where you're going to resonate with them energetically. And so if where you're resonating with them is in a more shadowy state, then you're more likely to get readings, you know, out of them that are going to reflect that shadowy state, you know, and it all kind of like bounces and echoes off of each other and builds up into a place. So be mindful of all that. Let me get one last little card to kind of seal this off, as hopefully I quit scooting my mat around here. Ooh, okay, we got two. All right. Yeah, but I told you we have uprights here. So 9 of Pentacles and Page of Cups as your pathway forward. What is this looking like here? Yeah, so you're really wanting to be this, you know, strong, independent in your own power, you know, pre-Empress type of energy of, you know, and you don't have to be a woman and you don't have to be strictly femme identifying. I know overwhelmingly the statistics on YouTube for tarot readings are like AFAB women who are femme identifying, who are interested in primarily heterosexual relationships. So I know the demographic, but you don't have to be that. You absolutely do not have to be that. But this is really like, even like the stripes on the little corset here and the stripes on this guy. Like, I know it's a steampunk tarot deck, so the stripes are a thing, but still it's like this tiger stripe montage happening here. this is that energy of like, I'm the strong, independent tarot reader who don't need no man. Like it's that sort of like, it's that meme, you know, like I'm picturing like the original meme was I think a golden retriever with a leash around its neck, but it had the leash in its mouth and it was just like on a walk by itself. And, you know, it was that, you know, strong, independent woman type of, you know, joke. But it's that sort of energy right here of like, I want to be this and I'm going to come out of this negative state and I'm going to become this. But it's the same energy. It's the same picture. It's the exact same picture as this deflection energy. It's just saying, I want to make it feel high vibe. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You still have to deal with the energy and you still have to deal with the stuff underpinning it. I'm sorry. Just trying to be strong and independent and still deflecting from that energy is not going to solve it. You have to meet it where it is. And you have to understand when you are emotionally avoiding something versus when you are actually releasing and being okay with it and emotionally regulated in yourself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But it is what it is. It's a bit of a warning. Don't try to fool yourself into thinking that you've resolved something when it's not resolved. It's okay if it's not resolved, though. Like, it's okay. Again, you don't have to tackle everything all at once. It's okay if it's a process. Just don't try to hold yourself to a standard where you have to suddenly get high vibe and just deal with the things and get it out of your energy and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's okay if you have a thing that's trapped in your energy and you're working through it over time. That can be very normal. And when you're doing it gently with your nervous system, it gives you a chance to heal other periphery things. Like if you have childhood wounding or something else that's like interacting with a current stressor, like it gives you a chance to actually work through that and truly be present with your emotions and feel what you're feeling instead of just trying to like race to a finish line. So don't try to force yourself to this like standard of perfection or the sense of I have to be this, you know, rock monster that has no feelings, that is not touched by anything. I am not weak. I have no weaknesses. I am fine, all on my own. I don't need anybody, which means I can have everybody because nobody can reject me. So I'm, you know, skipping being alone so I can stay connected, but I'm staying connected by being alone. It's like, yeah, like fighting fire with fire, but everybody's on fire and nothing actually works. Like, you know, we go in circles sometimes trying to make stuff happen, and it's literally like juggling. We're trying to like keep all the balls in the air, and so we're like using one defense mechanism and then another to fix the problems caused by that, and then another to fix the problems caused by that, and we go in these circles trying to just like keep the results in a acceptable homeostasis and then hope that we can numb out and be okay with the results. Like, I get it. But just be aware that that's what's happening. Just be aware at least that that's what's happening and that's something you're going to need to be trying to move away from. Just be aware, okay? So the Page of Cups. This is a little bit more of that emotional honesty. And you see the page of like, okay, we got to get real. Like, let's at least be real about the reality here. And I always thought it was so funny. In this particular card, like, it's a steampunk deck. And, you know, there are mechanical things, you know, there are mechanical things in the steampunk world. Not everything is just, you know, like steam engine trains and clocks. Like there's more to the steampunk mechanical world than that. But they've got this little rocket car that like if you look closely, you're like, oh yeah, it's kind of got a fin on the back. That's a steampunk thing, and it almost looks like maybe like there's a little undercarriage thing, so it's kind of like a hot air balloon, like one of the dirigibles. But like just glancing at it, especially with this nose being this reddish tip, it looks like an F-35 fighter jet to me. Like, it looks like there's a random fighter jet in this steampunk picture. And so in my mind, I always get like, there's a random swords energy. There's an ace of swords zipping through the page of cups. How interesting. And I'm getting that again here with you, where it's like, here's this swords energy showing back up in the page of cups, where it's like, I need to take this honest look at things and bring it into an honest communion with my feelings and get into that hard space here. And that's honestly, yes, that is, to summarize, that is your path forward. It's going to mean slightly different things for everybody. And this is a broad stroke summary of, yes, this is your path forward. And I feel kind of like a sphinx saying that, because you can't always just take that and try to like forcefully apply it to your situation and be like, well, the tarot reader said I have to get honest about my emotions and that's my path forward. It's like easier said than done. And sometimes it's one of those things where you can see that that was the description of what needed to happen only after you get to your solution, where it's like in hindsight, you can look back and be like, oh yeah, that would describe accurately what helped me get past this emotionally. But in the moment, the path that it took to get there, I wouldn't have been thinking to describe it as this while I was living it. So broad strokes may or may not immediately help you with discerning your path, but this is the energy. So again, this is a homework pile. This is not a one and done, and this is kind of, I think, the vibe for the whole reading, for all piles, is like, you are being given information and it's not totally on a silver platter, because it's like you are being trusted to lean into this and do the work, to be able to discern this and use your intuition to find how it's going to ring true for you, because this is not just like it's not meant to be strictly like a general audience normal pick a card. This is for people that are used to working with intuition and do card readings themselves. So, and other forms of divination and whatnot. So being real about your emotional state and bringing this in, that is the true ascension to a higher energy. Because this is kind of like, bestie, I'm sorry, but this side is giving spiritual bypassing a little bit. I'm sorry. So this is more of the actual doing the truthful work of it, of like really seeing it for what it is. This is where you actually get that higher vibe transition happen, with the truth, the reality, sitting with it. And again, page energy, taking it slow, not forcing yourself to go too fast. So, all right, that feels complete. All right, so thank you so much for letting me read into this situation. Thank you for coming in and sticking along for the ride here. I appreciate you. And, I would appreciate an energy exchange of a like if you feel so inclined. I would love to have you back for other readings in the future if you want to follow, or just, find me again and let the algorithm take you where it does. You're also welcome to stick around for other piles. This is not necessarily exclusive of just pick a solution. You can have multiple things going on. Multiple things can be true at one time. But if this is where we part ways, I do hope you have a great rest of your day or night, wherever you are, whatever's going on. And hopefully we will read together again soon at some point. But I'm going to go ahead and start getting things lined up for pile 3. Pile 3. Oof, I'm already feeling an energy shift here. You guys are in a whole lot like, it's almost like a spicier, fiery type of energy. It's like, it's kind of giving like fire sign Leo energy. Like Leo Sag energy is how it's feeling. Very, oof. There's a lot going on here. Why is it spicy? It's kind of the feeling. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, so pile 3. I can give you the same spiel as the other ones. So I'm not reading the Oh my God. Okay. Like the signifier card, or not even the signifier, like the one that you use to choose your pile. I am not incorporating that directly into your reading. If you see something in that that you feel is, you know, worth adding to your reading, that is up to you to interpret. If you see it, claim it for yourself. I am not relying on that. I'm starting with, you know, the full deck, and just letting things come out as they need to come out. So the other piles so far got one of these cards. Again, your high energy. I feel like all three need to come out, and, you know, what a dang combination here. Cosmic egg, butterfly, dragon. And this is like literally like chrysalis progression into like the, you know, this cosmic snake blossoming into a dragon. So again, I'm really drawn to this, like all the color, like the rainbow color. And that's kind of, you know, a theme in this deck in terms of, you know, like here, just pulling out one, the crow. We have kind of a rainbow theme with the black and white, but it's still the way that it's showing up here really is like, you know, bringing something out, bringing it forward, and letting yourself truly express who you are. There's something that you're going to lose along the way if you're not careful. I feel, yeah, so like the energy of this pile is very, I am fighting the urge. That's kind of the summary for the energy. I'm fighting the urge. I'm fighting the urge where this energy feels like it wants to be kind of like decisive, not necessarily impatient, but it could seem impatient at times, where it's kind of like, okay, get to the point, tell me the bottom line, what does it mean? And it's almost like I was hearing somebody, like feeling their energy, like as these cards came out, where they're like, oh yeah, I see it, I know what that means, it's this, it's this, it's this, and it's like confirming all these things, and I'm going in all these directions. And I know not everybody who's in this energy will be experiencing it like that. So I want to say that is one expression of it. Not everybody will be feeling it in that explicit, like really out there type of way. So I don't want you to feel alienated from this message if you are not experiencing it like that. If you feel like you're calm right now, you might still be in that energy. But this is coming forward in a way where it's kind of like almost like trying to tug on me as a reader to give much more decisive answers and interpretations to things, even at the cost of it being accurate. And it's sort of like wanting to not sit with the unknown, to not sit with like multiple things potentially being true at once. I just said that, I think, at the end of the last pile. Like not wanting to, it's like the pause in between, like the true pause in between, because like even the butterfly's process is not immediate. Like that chrysalis stage, you know, that it's not immediate. There's time involved. This butterfly completely breaks down and is reformed. Like that's not an overnight experience. And there's sort of this encouragement to sit with the process. And it doesn't mean slow it down in the sense of like, oh, I've already been waiting and now another tarot reader is telling me to slow down about something. Yay, it's my favorite message. Like I'm not talking about it like that nearly so much as your style of processing it, of like let it take up space, and you know, like let it blossom, let it cook, let's see what it is saying to you. Let the story get told, and let's, you know, let's sit with the energies for a little bit. Yeah, so King of Swords. A little bit of that decisiveness coming through with Swords energy, but I'm really focusing a bit more on, you know, a mastery of knowing and a mastery of quick decision making. You know, to reiterate, because not everybody is going to interact with this energy the exact same way, even if you're still in that energy. Doesn't mean it's going to show up the same way for everybody. Sometimes it's a reflection of simply knowing what you know, having expertise, being able to identify things from, like, you know, 60 yards away and you know what's up. Like, sometimes being quick to have answers does not mean you're impatient. It just means that you know what you know. And so this is saying to, you know, with this kind of vibe of like, let it happen, give it a chance to develop. You know, it's not saying that there's necessarily anything wrong with you coming in with this, you know, more decisive energy. It's just saying that even in that mastery, that may not immediately serve you, but in your mastery, you also have the ability to be flexible and discern and to be able to roll with it. And so this is a challenge to say, you've got it in you. You've got it in you. It's just a matter of kind of switching gears right now. So let that happen. So who or what is actually in your energy? Because right now this is kind of like you are in your energy. Is that's kind of the vibe, but I don't feel like that's the direction we're actually going in. But whatever it is, this lengthy foundation seemed to be very important for whatever's going to be coming in. So I'm kind of curious how this is. Yep, this is the one. The Chariot. Interesting, interesting. Oh, this is a very curious energy. This energy is fighting me, man. This energy is really fighting me. So, and the Hierophant. Okay. So, I'm going to say a little thing. And as tarot readers, you're probably going to understand what I'm saying right away. But I'm going to say a little thing. And let it be heard kind of, you know, slowly as if it's your first time hearing it. Let me be the old man under the tree for a minute. Sometimes energies will come through in readings that look huge in the cards. But then when it actually plays out, it's like an ant sneezing, like blink and you miss it. It's like, yeah, it actually happened and I guess this was important, but like this was so anticlimactic. What happened? Like, why? And this is a moment of saying, like, the energies that are coming through right now, somewhere within this, and it's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but somewhere within this is that phenomena where some of these energies are going to seem bigger in these cards. And this is for more, if this is resonating for you, this applies for more than just this reading. Whatever your situation is, if you've been listening to other readers, it's going to apply in those messages as well. Something about this situation, even beyond this reading, is going to try to show up in cards as looking much more significant than it actually is when it plays out. So be a little bit cautious again, like let things cook, take your time. It's okay. Let it come, let it go, kind of hold on to it loosely, let the water run through your fingers. You know, information may not always, you know, look the same when it actually shows up. And so don't rely strictly on the feelings. Like, you know, take it for what it is, like the King of Swords, writing down in the book, like, you know, take your notes, take it in. Doesn't mean ignore things, but let that structure come in the way that it's meant to come. And it's kind of like the Chariot, like moving very quickly towards, like the Hierophant energy. I'm getting it as being kind of like the structure of fate. mixed with a sense of the authority found in divination as a craft. You know, because energies move and change. Future's not set in stone. But it's like there's a certain level of, you know, like there's substance to it. There's substance to tarot. There's substance to divination. It's not all a shout into the void and sometimes it's right. Like there's substance to it. So it's kind of like that idea of like there is something dependable on here that this King of Swords can, like, there's something dependable here that they can lean into. And like the King of Swords is surrounded by these like major arcana energies, and up here in the animal cards, like the cosmic egg and the dragon, like there are alchemical symbols at the top. In this deck, these two are the circle. I forget exactly what the deck creator, Kim Kranz, I forget exactly what she calls them. I think she maybe calls it the ether. But it's kind of like the idea of like you have the four main alchemical symbols of water, earth, air, fire, and then this is like a fourth, but it kind of transcends above them. This is kind of like the major arcana of this oracle deck. And now you've got like up here you've got air, and now again you have air surrounded by two major arcana. So you have the sense of like the transformation I need, the way that I am like the fulcrum point that's pivoting this entire, you know, energetic exchange. I am surrounding myself by things that are higher than I, because I'm trying to look beyond myself to get the answers that are appropriate and not limit myself just based on my own perceptions. So it's, you know, like it's very well-intended energy. It is, again, like there's mastery here. This is not just like flying by the seat of your pants and hoping something sticks. Okay, so let's... Whatever this is, okay, I feel like the energy is not coming out specifically in a very obvious way, because in part because it's very private, and I feel like you don't want to totally get into this because one, it's going to be a big emotional experience. It's going to like supersede the point of this reading. It's almost like opening up a can of worms, like not in a bad way. Like it's not like, you know, your situation doesn't deserve time and attention or anything like that, but it's kind of like almost like your nervous system is saying, it's too much right now. I don't want to get into all the details. So let me get just even a single card that will kind of give a little bit of confirmation, because I think this is one of those things where it's like, you know, we're trusting you as a fellow reader to be able to read into your own energies enough to understand what this is connecting to, as long as we give you a connection point. So let's get a connection point for you. This is the one. All right. The Empress. Yep. More major arcana energy. Yes, this is such a high energy pile. There's so much going on for you. So I'm drawn to the fact that the Empress here is pregnant. You were carrying something where it's kind of like the inverse of what I said earlier about like this air energy, this kind of like mastery of air surrounding itself by major arcana energy, looking to something higher than itself as, you know, support, as reference to make sure it's on the right track. This is kind of like the inverse, where instead of you reaching out to it, it is kind of like something that you have to carry as a burden within you. And it's that pregnancy thing of like, here's this thing, here's the situation, and I can't get away from it. I just have to deal with it. So I have to figure it out, and it's a bigger situation than I am, and I'm having to try to, you know, like negotiate around the realities that I'm facing. And, you know, we're in it now. There's, you know, we can't just get away from it from where we are. Like this is, you know, it would not be easy to try to divert myself or extricate myself from these circumstances. We are where we are, and I'm just kind of having to go with the flow on this already. So whatever that means to you, I'm also very much drawn to her hand and the way that she's holding it up. And there's that like glowing light, and there's little tendrils, almost like little bits of electricity kind of flowing off of it. I feel like that might be a sign for somebody. And again, I don't feel inclined to dig into that energy because I don't feel like this is, don't feel like I'm supposed to be digging into it. So I'll let you sit with that to see if that confirms anything to you. Yeah, I'm also kind of getting a feeling of sadness off of her, which is not something I normally get off of this card, but there's sort of a sense almost like a bravado, trying to be confident, even alluring, kind of, that charismatic type of vibe, almost like a Queen of Wands. But underneath it, it's like, I'm tired, I'm sad, I'm stressed, I'm not feeling this, like, I'm trying, but God, like, it's that sort of feeling. So what is connecting this to the subject of who or what's in your energy? What's going on? What's pulling on your energy? Because I still feel like this is incredibly abstract. We haven't grounded. Even with this connection point, I feel like we haven't quite grounded in the way that we are intending to. Okay, again, more cards than I wanted, but it feels like this is what needs to come up. So we have the Five of Cups, the Ten of Cups, the Four of Swords, the High Priestess, and the Six of Swords. Even before reading these cards individually, I feel like you've been on a little bit of a journey. Like there's been a bit of a saga here. If you're feeling tired, I want you to take a moment to come home to your sense of your own state. And like, when we're tired and we're on a journey and we're kind of just trying to stick with it, a lot of times we equate rest with either being something to refill our stamina so we can stay in the race, or sometimes inversely, a thing that we do if we're admitting defeat. And that like the only way I'll rest is if I've finally given up and stopped trying. We're a lot of times we frame rest around how we're relating to the journey that we're on, instead of rest being a completely independent factor. And I'm feeling, like take a moment to tap into your energy as being your energy. You exist outside of this journey. You exist, your energy reserves, your needs, all of that exists outside of this journey that you're on. And so you needing to tap in with yourself, you needing to rest, all of that doesn't necessarily have a single thing to do with how you're relating to the journey. And so if you're needing to take a moment to stop and rest, take a moment. That doesn't mean you have to stop the journey, but that also doesn't mean that you have to continue the journey. It doesn't mean that you need to hang in there and buckle down and keep doing something if it's not working for you. It also doesn't mean that you have to throw up your hands and be like, if I'm not getting results yet, then maybe I'm doing something wrong and I'm sticking with something that isn't meant for me. Like, let it be two separate things so that you can take care of your energy and your needs. And also, separately, be able to discern how you're relating to the journey that you're dealing with. So I'm seeing a pattern here where there's a little bit of a classic, again, like I'm fighting the urge. I'm fighting the urge, pile 3. There is a very quick, immediate interpretation to this that I feel like is not going to really serve us. It isn't necessarily incorrect. It could be correct for some people, but I feel like jumping in with that interpretation is going to sidetrack us and take us away from the energy that needs to be examined. And I'm going to call it out for what it is within that context, so we're mindful of what's happening here as I'm giving that interpretation. This is kind of like a boom, boom, boom of something's going on in a love relationship and I'm upset. They're not doing the thing. They're not texting me. We're in separation. Like, a lot of the normal stuff. They're not reciprocating. They're not getting their stuff together. They're whatever. There's a third party. There's stuff happening. I just want the 10 of Cups. We could have it so easy. It's like, this could be us, but instead you're playing around. So you take time, you rest, you reflect. You maybe go to a tarot reader, you do some energy work, you do your thing, and then you try to move forward, whether it's with that person or if it's just, like on your own. You try to move forward in a higher way and get out of the negative emotional cycle, and you try to elevate out of that and grow. That's the line here. That's the storyline that's wanting to jump out and scream at me like, this is it. This is the answer. Take it and go. Move on to the next thing. This is your message. Go, 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 go. Get lost in this energy and spiral into a rabbit hole on this. And that's not the direction we need to be going. And I'll make a note here. This came up a little bit in the last pile, but in a different way. If you have been connecting with readers who would read those cards like that and just spiral and jump down that direction and not look back once, those readings in your circumstances currently probably aren't serving you. Because I feel like it's more so blending with your energy and the energy that's trying to tug on you, rather than actually shining a light on your circumstances. So it's more like echoing back what's already happening. You kind of think about like somebody saying, I've got this problem, and then somebody else says, me too. And then somebody else says, me too. And everybody's saying like, oh yeah, me too, me too, me too, me too. And then like you kind of stop after a while and then you realize like, cool, I don't feel as alone and I feel validated because I'm hearing this echoed back at me and there's all this stuff and I kind of feel like I've made progress, but like, do we actually have a solution here? Like, have we learned anything? Have we gained any traction other than just feeling not alone? Other than feeling seen, which is, it's a valid thing. But other than that, have we actually done anything with this energy? Or are we just starting to like kind of be in that cycle where we're more focused on getting affirmation for the fact that we have this problem and it exists and it's real? Or are we actually looking for something solutions-based, which you don't necessarily have to be looking for something solutions-based. That may not be where you're at right now, but at least be mindful to know the difference between which energy you're needing to be in. Because if you're really just looking for affirmation and you're looking for somebody to be in your corner and like shout back everything you've been thinking but have been afraid to say out loud, or like feel like maybe you aren't allowed to say out loud, if you're just looking for, a tarot reader to maybe be like, yeah, your person's full of crap and they're doing the wrong thing and they need to get their stuff together. It's like, sometimes that's really cathartic and we really need to hear somebody else say that. Sometimes we need to hear it said out loud, passionately, without flinching. But that's not always going to serve you. And you know that won't always serve you. And so it's kind of like a challenge here to be discerning about what it is that you actually need and just be honest about that. Like, be honest about where you're at and what you're needing and make sure that that's what you're actually feeding yourself with. And don't like say, oh, I'm going on this higher path and I'm ascending and doing this work, but then you're really just needing affirmation. You're just needing to be heard. And if you actually need a solution path, then go for a solution path and stay away from the stuff that's just going to keep you lost in the emotional sauce of stuff. Like, it's not necessarily saying one or the other is like better for you right now. I am a little bit inclined to say don't be lost in the emotional sauce, because so much of that like fiery kind of overly decisive type of energy I keep getting a sense of caution about that in this reading, but even then, it does have a time and a place. So the biggest thing is just be aware of what you actually need and be conscious about what you're consuming to see if it's actually congruent with where you're at and what you're needing. And I feel like that energy feels pretty complete for that line of cards. So I'm going to tempt fate and ask for one last little bit of something to kind of tie this all together. Because I feel like we've already got solution paths and all of that. We just need, honestly, to kind of like tie this back into the theme to see exactly, which again, so many cards, so much energy. You're the talkative pile. Two of Pentacles, the Magician reversed, the World card, Nine of Cups. Okay. Now I feel like the energy has relaxed some. This is good. This is a good feeling. All right, so this feels like you are what's really up in your energy. What's really getting you is you are just tired from a lot of mundane crap. Not just mundane life, but like the crap. Like, I gotta pay another bill. I gotta pay rent again. Like, didn't I just pay rent last month? Why are you asking for more money from me? Like, you know, it's that type of feeling of like, every single day there's something else. And it just keeps coming. It doesn't stop. And it's like you're having to make decisions about some things. You're at a crossroads in certain ways, and you're having to like juggle situations. And life just isn't quite like fulfilling in the ways that you're really needing it to be. Like emotionally, you feel claustrophobic almost is the vibe that I'm getting of like, I just don't have room to spread my wings and fully be like me. I feel like, you know, I go to my job and I make money and yay money so I can pay bills and yay. But I don't feel like I'm a complete person. I feel like I'm just kind of like a machine going through the motions, having to go from one obligation to the next. And if I keep doing those obligations, then I don't drown. But like, it feels like all of life's just a series of obligations at this point. Where's my life? And it feels like there's a desire to kind of escape out of that, to get into something that feels more real and potent and emotionally, not just expansive, but like varied. Like, you want to feel something. You want to feel alive. You want to feel like there's something to sink your teeth into. And I think that's where this energy is coming from, of wanting to like almost like run with the emotions and just like fly through the field with butterflies and rainbows streaming behind you. And it's like, yeah, I just want to run wild and have my Nine of Cups moment here. And there's a little bit of a caution of, again, like, make sure that the needs that you're trying to meet are like you're conscious of the need that you're actually trying to meet. You know, it's like if you're going to a love reading about a particular person and you're kind of looking for something that's like super fiery, but ultimately it's not because you're necessarily looking for truly the tea on your person, but you're really just wanting to feel something and you're wanting some sort of action to go on. Like, do you like give yourself the grace to say like, I am looking for emotional connection and expression, and I'm feeling pent up and I've got a ton of energy right now, and I'm just looking for a safe space to explore this and feel content at the end in some capacity because I've had a release for this energy. And that may or may not actually be able to apply to this love situation. Like, this is saying be conscious of that, because the stuff that's pulling on your energy is your frustration with the real world, like just the crap and the mundane life stuff. That's what's really pulling on your energy right now, and your feeling of wanting to escape and wanting to be a full real person with a full spectrum of emotions and experiences and, you know, vibrant life. And there's so much more to you than the day-to-day like trudging in and out gray melancholy type of stuff that's coming through here. So be transparent with yourself as much as you can about what need you're actually trying to meet and what way you can actually meet that. And be cautious about trying to make something meet that need that it's not actually meant to do, because it can kind of like get you set into like a parallel version of reality where the energies are kind of vibing enough that you're kind of able to like tell yourself, oh yeah, this reading is resonating, this thing's actually happening. But then like if you're like really getting grounded into the energy, you're like, I don't think I was listening to this reading with a clear head. I don't think my energies were fully grounded when I was responding to this. And I think I might have been like kind of skewing the way that I was receiving this. I'm not sure if it's actually for me like this or not. So that's a little bit of a checkpoint to say, you know, find your plumb line. Find what grounded actually means for you. And the other thing is, like, here's a tip. If you want like a love reading or something where you're like, I just want something juicy, I want something interesting, I want progress, you know, it's possible to listen to love readings for made up scenarios. Like, hang with me for a second. Like, you can, like, in the same way that like you might want to write a story or something like that, like you can listen to readers and have a completely fictional scenario in your head. And it's not even like, oh, it's a real person, but a fictional scenario with them. Like, no, even the person's fictional. Like, you know, I don't necessarily recommend a celebrity because that starts to get a little bit weird, but like maybe like a fictional character or something. Like, pick somebody, like pick something like that. And like you can listen to love readings and have it be kind of almost like a choose your own adventure, where it's like you listen to one reader where they talk about, you know, what is this person wanting to say to you if they actually felt like they were brave enough to say it. And then maybe in the next reading is somebody talking about what's going to happen the next time you see each other. And like, you can kind of like do that. And like, just as a form of pure entertainment, like you can have a lot of fun doing that. Like you can have a lot of fun, like, especially if your imagination's very active, like you can do a little choose your own adventure story on a totally fictional thing. And that can be a way to like really vibe through like intense emotions if you want to feel it, but at the same time you're not trying to like cross wires with like real life situations, you know. So like if you're wanting to scratch that itch with tarot as opposed to like, you know, a book or a TV show or something else like that, like if you want to scratch that itch through tarot, that's a fun way you can do it. That's an easy outlet for that energy where you can have fun and you can run through the field with butterflies and rainbows and dragons and nobody's going to stop you, and you're not going to have to worry about like your Delulu train crashing off a cliff at some point, because you know it's all fictional and it's a safe space to explore and have fun and be creative and feel things and feel alive and go through these scenarios without having to worry about the consequences on the other side, you know? So the stuff that's pulling on your energy is the stuff that you don't want pulling on your energy. And the stuff you want pulling on your energy is the stuff that you wish was your reality, but you're having trouble connecting to if it's your reality or not. And so I'm encouraging you to, one, you know, don't try to force something to be real if it's not actually part of your reality. Don't force something to hurry up and figure out if it's real, because it may take time to find out if it's part of your reality or not. And if you just really want to have fun and feel something, it doesn't have to be part of your reality. It doesn't have to be. Multiple things can be true at once. You can feel these feelings and have fun with tarot and have it not even be part of like a real reading. So you can have that fun, you know, in a totally safe, sequestered way where it's not going to cross wires at all. So that is your reading. Very different from the first two piles. Very different, very creative. You got a lot going for you here right now. So thank you very much for giving me a chance to read for you. Thank you for hanging with me. If you feel so inclined, an energy exchange in the form of a like would be most welcome. Love it if you came back and we could, you know, do another reading in the future. If you want to follow or just trust the algorithm to bring you back around when the time is right. Either way, I would love to see you again at some point. If you're hanging on for any of the other readings, you're more than welcome to do so. But if you are signing off at this point, then I wish you a good day or night, wherever you are, whenever you are. And hopefully we do cross paths again soon. So let me get myself all set up for pile 4. Whew. These have been very interesting readings, but I appreciate the variety. I appreciate all the interesting energies that have been coming through tonight. Very lovely souls involved here. Okay. Do a last shuffle over here. Okay, so pile 4. I'm going to give you the same mini intro that I gave the others. So the card that you chose from is already reincorporated into the deck. I am not going to read off of that directly. I want to start with a full deck. So if you saw a message in that card and you want to interpret that for yourself, you are more than welcome to claim that. I am not going to go back and focus on that. I'm just going to read what comes through. But if that adds anything to the experience, if that is confirmation for you, if it's any sort of extra message, feel free to take it, go for it, run with it. That is yours to do with however you please. All right. Oh my, interesting. So this was a central card in the other deck, or other pile, in pile 3. That is very curious that that's coming back. It does feel like a distinct energy, though. It does not feel like a continuation. And like I shuffled, I put these cards back in, I shuffled, I did all the things. I did the steps. I did the things. So this wanted to come back out on purpose. And yes, it is distinct. This is a different energy. There might be themes. There have been themes tonight, so there might be some crossovers if you're watching for both files. But this is coming through as a distinct reading. Yep. Okay, so I've got these 3 cards, and I feel like they are almost like in the swirling motion, like the 3 of Pentacles. Like they aren't quite deciding how they want to be oriented, who wants to be first, how they're going to do it. So we've got the Tower, we've got the World reversed, and we've got the Page of Pentacles reversed. And I feel like the order of these is not only interchangeable, but it's like it's constantly moving energetically. This is very interesting little swirl vortex happening here. So I feel like somebody who's at this pile wants me, like energetically, it's like they're wanting me to almost do like a completely different reading. It's such an interesting feeling. Have you ever been watching a reading and like you clicked on a pile and it's like, I know I wanted to watch this reading, but you're like maybe 5 minutes in, and then there's a part of you that's just kind of like, sigh, like maybe I want to watch a different reading. Like maybe there's a different topic. Like, I don't know, my energy's not settled. I'm not sure if this is where I want to be. Like, I don't know, like I wanted this reading, but I don't know if I wanted it. Like, is there a way I can just like download it instantly into my mind so I don't have to actually like sit here and listen to it? Like, that's the feeling that's coming through here. Of almost like I just want to like click a button, get the entire reading downloaded into my brain, and then move on to the next one, because it's like I'm trying to like find some sort of emotional release here. It's such an interesting like meta message for this. Okay, so tell me a little bit more. Ooh, that's a lot of cards. I'm not going to take that this time. I don't feel like that's actually correct for this pile. There we go. That's better. 4 of Pentacles. You want a reader to be able to protect you from something right now. Yep, the Wheel of Fortune reversed. So, oops, excuse me as I'm bumping my camera. Yeah, you're also shielding your energy. That was happening in another pile. You're kind of shielding your energy. It's different than, it's a pile 2 or 3. Pile 2 or 3. Somebody was doing some energy shielding. I think it was pile 2. It's a different reason though. So if you're again watching more than one pile, it's a different reason than pile 2, but it's also kind of like, it's a, I'm hearing this tagline that we might have some like Gen X or millennials, like elder millennials, like there's this brand called Calgon, which was like scented lotions and stuff, or body washes if I'm not mistaken. And one of their taglines was Calgon, take me away, where it's sort of like, take me to this beach adventure. It's kind of like this 80s marketing vibe, like 80s, 90s. That's what I heard was like, Calgon, take me away. It's like looking for a tarot reader to kind of like take you on a vacation from the stuff you don't want to look at, but at the same time you want answers for this stuff that's in your energy. So it's like, I don't want to look at it, I just want it to be better. Which, you know, relatable. I get it. Very relatable. So how can we help here? What can we actually do for you here? What's going on with these energies? What's going on with you? Let's talk a little bit more about what's going on. At least give me one connector card so we know what's up. Okay, 5 of Swords. Yeah. So you've got this conflict that's happening. I feel like this is a conflict where things are changing and they keep changing. It's kind of like things keep evolving, and it's almost in a way that feels predictable. Not necessarily a pattern of like, you know exactly what's going to happen, but almost like there's this predictable rhythm to it. And it's not quite to this degree, but I think if this is resonating, you'll be able to kind of relate to this vibe where, you know, sometimes life is really tough and very traumatic. It can really beat us down. And sometimes we can spiral into this feeling that like, no matter what we do, as soon as life starts to get good, something's going to come along and mess it up. And it kind of feels like it's clockwork. And it's almost this feeling like it's not even us. It's like, it's not me being negative or doubtful or whatever. It's like just clockwork. It always happens as something comes along. It's that feeling where sometimes life is just like one thing after another. And it can be like big stuff, and it can happen for a long time. It can really grind us down and get us into this place of just always expecting something bad to be happening. And it feels like a dialed back version of that is showing up here, where it's like there's always something. And that really makes sense why this energy is like, Calgon, take me away. Take me away from the stuff. I just don't want to be involved in it. But there's a need with this Tower card. I'm really feeling it's like there's a need for there to be some sort of ending, and that ending doesn't necessarily look immediately like emotional relief from this. So I'm noticing this parallel here between both the Wheel of Fortune and the World reversed, which like visually there are a lot of parallels there. But there's kind of this sense of like, if I can't have something good and the cycle won't end, is there at least a way to escape this process? And this Page of Pentacles is coming through with this feeling of like, this would be one step at a time, one day at a time. We'll get through this. With it being reversed, it's kind of like, it doesn't seem to matter what I do. It's never like, I'm never getting ahead of this. It just sort of feels like it's always going to do what it's going to do. It doesn't matter what I'm contributing to this. But there's this need to not just break the cycle by trying to avoid it, but there's like a stepping outside the cycle, almost like sidestepping it. Like you think about like something is like barreling towards you and you know you can't jump high enough for it to go underneath you, and you can't like tackle it and get it to stop, and you can't, do whatever. And this is like, take one giant step to the left and it'll just go right past you. It's that sort of feeling. And I do not say that to make light of what you're going through, because this could be a very stuck thing. This could be a thing where you're hearing that and you're like, gee, I didn't think of that. Why didn't I try that before? If it was that dang easy, I would have done it by now. I get it. Life can be complicated. It's not always that easy, but energetically, it's kind of that feeling of, at least for right now, this Calgon take me away energy of can we just bottle up all this crap and hold on to it and shove it over there so I don't have to have it infect all of my life? I want something outside of this. I want to step outside of this energy. This is that invitation to say we're going to take a giant step to the left and we're going to let it whiz on past us to the right, and we're going to clock into something else. And let's see what we can align with right now. So even if it's just temporarily. Okay. We have the Hanged Man reversed. Interesting. So the Hanged Man talks about getting a new perspective on things. And sometimes when it comes in reverse like this, it's saying that the cycle is complete. The hangman has achieved that goal and gotten a new perspective. This feels more like I'm going to call it like I'm feeling it, because I keep trying to generalize the energy and it keeps trying to be super specific. So maybe this pile needs it to be specific. This feels like you are not necessarily doom scrolling, but you're trying to get lost in a form of media, whether that's binge watching a TV show or, something like that, where it's you're trying to get lost in something else. And I'm not going to say that whatever it is categorically bad or unhelpful. But I'm going to say in these circumstances, I feel like you are trying too hard to be free from something, to the point where you're trying to be free from anything in order to feel like you've made some sort of difference, like you've tipped the scales in a better direction for you. And I don't feel like this thing is actually really serving you. And on some level, you are frustrated by that. And you feel like this isn't actually changing, it's not changing your view. It's not changing the landscape outside your window. You're still in your circumstances. You haven't actually escaped it. But now you're there's almost an anxiety that's been built up around not engaging in whatever this media is. And it's not even necessarily that it comforts you. It's just something different that is able to captivate you and kind of lead you away from what you're dealing with. But I don't feel like it's even that effective in being a comfort. It's almost like binging on junk food, where you keep telling yourself, I'm supposed to enjoy this. This is supposed to be a treat, but you really don't find it to be enjoyable while you're doing it. It's almost like you're eating through an entire bag of chips, and it's the entire time you're I'm supposed to be enjoying this. This is supposed to be special. And instead it's just it just tastes greasy and it's coating my mouth and it all kind of tastes the same. And there's so much salt. And it's yay, potato. Yay, but I don't know, now I just kind of feel sick. And I'm kind of hungry for something of substance, but my stomach's full, so I don't really have room for something better. or like eating a bunch of like candy or something, and it's like, yay, it maybe tasted good at first, but now I feel funny because my blood sugar's off. Like, it's that type of feeling of like I'm trying to indulge, but it's not even really doing the trick, and I'm not feeling great, but I'm also kind of afraid to stop because I feel like this is the thing that I have and I have to lean into it. And this is an encouragement to say, like, if it's not actually like giving you that new perspective, if it isn't actually addressing the situation, like, it's okay to let it go. You don't even have to complete the cycle. It's okay to just stop. It's okay to just walk away from something if it's not working. You don't have to finish the bag of chips. You don't have to finish that episode. You don't have to, whatever. Like, it's okay to get bored in the middle of something and walk away from it. Yeah, so we have the Ten of Pentacles reversed here. Yeah. It's also okay to be able to dabble in things and say, I'm not going to get my total fulfillment in any one singular thing. I'm going to have to find it in multiple things. And I'm not saying that to say you should have a bite of chips and a bite of Reese's and a bite of Takis. Like, I'm not trying to say that, but I'm saying, like, whatever it is that you are seeking as a fulfillment, like, the entire paradigm might need to be kind of like rehabbed, and like toss out the idea that there's a singular thing that's going to make you feel better, and look at it more as a holistic lifestyle type of situation. And for some people, it really does mean quite literally lifestyle. Like, if you are not feeling good, there's that question. Not everybody has great access to healthcare. Not everybody can go to doctor. Not everybody has access to doctors that are good. Not everybody has access to doctors that will take them seriously and do all that stuff. But you can do things like try to stay hydrated, get your sleep, eat your fruits and vegetables, eat your plants. You would be surprised how much healing can happen from eating your plants and not having a bunch of like extra fillers and stuff. There's so much of the food that we eat that is very, very distant from the way that food is meant to fuel us. There's a lot of artificial flavors. Everything's got like a ton of fat and salt, or like processed beet sugar and other things in it. Like, a lot of stuff is built on cheap flavor experiences because it's easy to manufacture and have a stable shelf life and get people like addicted to it. Like, quite literally, like that's the thought process behind it. That's what it's designed to do, as opposed to being like actually nutritionally helpful to you. So like, if you're having trouble with your emotional state, like, baby, maybe your liver's upset. Maybe your blood sugar's not stable. Maybe you need, and I'm not just saying like, oh, do yoga and you'll fix all your problems. Like, it's not that simple, but like, look at your lifestyle and say, what can you do? Like, what are you eating and what are you doing? How can you get more connected to your fruits and veggies? How can you get more connected to things like, even just a little bit of time in sunlight, just to consciously enjoy the sunlight. You don't have to become a weekend warrior and, start jogging marathons or anything like that. Like, just little steps to get more grounded and connected with the earth, more connected to your experience as a person. What can you do to move in that direction? What can you do to help your sleep hygiene? What can you do with, like your hydration? Like I said, if there is an activity level thing, either you're doing too much or too little, how can you adjust for that? How can you adjust for maybe symptoms of illness that are coming up in your body that need a little bit more care and love? What can you do to maybe adjust to that? Not just to make yourself feel better in the moment, not just as a comfort, but like as an actual health support, like holistic support for yourself. Like, what can you do? This is saying, like, don't look for a magic bullet. look for steps. You know, coming back to this butterfly energy, it's about transformation. It takes time, and it's also going to take, you know, a complete redo. Because you get into the chrysalis, and that caterpillar completely like boils down into goop and gets completely reformed into a butterfly. It's a complete transformation process. And, you know, to ultimately get to where you're wanting to go, you're probably going to have to go through a total transformation process. And it's not about just finding a few missing pentacles to get to your 10 of pentacles. It's about like overhauling the whole thing. So that is a big pull on energy that I'm feeling for you. Let me get, if there's like one last card here. It also has to do with, you know, mental health. Like there's a lot of physiological stuff that does affect our mental health. But there's also stuff with mental health that is, you know, like independent of our physiological state. So this is, you know, for some people, maybe if you have tried with therapists in the past and you just haven't found a good one, this is maybe a little nudge to say, try again. If you're dealing with like traumas and stuff like that, try looking for specifically a trauma therapist. They do exist. Not all therapists are made equal. God knows they're not all made equal. But if you find a good trauma therapist, they can help you in ways that normal like talk therapy can't even begin to touch. You just need to find somebody that is, you know, gonna vibe with you and knows what they're doing. So if that's maybe something that's needing to be addressed and needing support there, maybe try again. Try looking to see if there's somebody in your area that you have access to, that you can afford. If you can't, and I said this with another pile, parts work is tremendous, and you can get books and stuff on that, and people have explored this sort of thing with, honestly, like spirituality in general, like shamanic journeying, shadow work. There are different ways people have already kind of tapped into this concept outside of psychology in a formal clinical setting. But, you know, if you can find a clinician who can help you with parts work, that would be ideal. But if you can't, for whatever reason, if it's not accessible, not affordable, whatever, you can explore that some on your own. There are ways. Okay, so here's a final card. Yep, Devil reversed. Yep. So it's not just about cutting the ties that bind you and getting away from the stuff. It's not about getting away from the stuff. It's about transforming your relationship with this stuff. And it's kind of like a moving through it process, like with a butterfly. There's a moving through it, and there is a like I'm picturing, it's this old cartoon. I don't know if it's like Bugs Bunny or one of them, but it's like, you know, that sort of era where somebody is like perched on the front of this like speeding freight train, and they have like this like basket or box or something of like these railroad pieces, and they're like hurriedly laying down these pieces of railroad track as the train is like moving forward to like keep the train from totally derailing. And of course it's like, you know, very extreme, very comical, but it's kind of the sense of like every step that you take to try to work away from the stuff that you're trying to get free from, you're having to lay down foundation of what you're moving towards that's going to be correct. So it's not enough to cut ties and escape. You're having to lay down a true foundation to where you're like transitioning, you're moving, you're, you know, it's not strictly a replacement, but it's like there's a multi-part step to your progress here. And it's like you're not going to have a magic bullet, and you're also not going to have like a magic point where you just suddenly depart from the stuff you're trying to get away from. It's going to be a process. It's going to take time, but it's going to feel right, and it's going to result in you being free from this stuff. It's just going to take time. So what's pulling on your energy here really feels a whole lot like like just the emotions and your emotional reactions to things and how you're dealing with it. It's almost like it's a separate, set of entities that are pulling on you, and trying to keep your circumstances at arm's length to be able to cope, and trying to find a way to get an equilibrium so you can survive day to day. And this is saying, like, you're not going to find a single magic bullet for that. And you're going to have to seek a holistic approach. And you're going to have to be building. And it's going to come lockstep with going away from a thing and doing the work of getting away from a thing. And not just trying to escape, not just trying to run. Unfortunately, we can dissociate some to help, take things in stride, because we take stuff step by step. We can't do it all at once, and we're not supposed to. But this is like, it's time. It's time. And that's not a thing of like, okay, it's time to get serious. Let's like shame ourselves into changing. It's not like that. It's like, it's time in the sense of allow yourself to awaken more fully to not just your strength, but your capacity to be safe with yourself. And that capacity to feel safe with yourself is going to give you the ability to face traumas and other things you need to deal with. Because if you feel safe with yourself and resourced in yourself, so many other things are going to require so much less energy to face them and deal with them. And it's one of those things where if you were dealing with that sort of struggle, it is hard to put it into words in a way that is truly meaningful. You kind of have to experience it for yourself. But once you start to experience that transition of feeling more and more safe with yourself on those deeper levels, it is massively transformative. It is such a night and day type of feeling. And things will begin to loosen up around you in other situations where you're like, wow, this isn't even just like, I'm not triggered in the way that I used to be around certain emotional experiences. It's just like, it's almost like certain parts of my entire experience have come online, and effortlessly so. It's like I've done the work behind the scenes, and it wasn't even necessarily on these specific things that I was trying to address in my day-to-day life. But now suddenly these things in my day-to-day life have gotten easier and better. So it's part of a process, and it takes trust in yourself, and it's an incredibly brave thing, and it's an incredibly beautiful thing when you are beginning to feel safe enough to trust yourself to start going to the next level in your healing journey. So give yourself your flowers. You deserve them. Let it happen. You are going to be okay. You're going to be able to get through this. It's just going to take time. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for letting me read for you. Thank you for letting me be in your energy. And, you're more than welcome. If you have come from another pile, thank you for sticking around. If you want to go to another pile, you're more than welcome to do so. It has been great being able to read for everyone tonight where I am early morning as I talk about health and all that. I'm dealing with insomnia right now myself. And I know what's going on with that. It's just unfortunate tonight. I just have to kind of ride it out. But wherever you are, day or night, if this is goodbye for now, then I wish you a great rest of your day or night. If you're sticking around, I thank you very much. If you feel so inclined, I would love an energy exchange in the form of a like, maybe a follow if you want to tune in for more readings in the future, or if you just want to trust the algorithm to bring you back around, that's fine too. But I would love to read for you again sometime. So thank you so much for being here, and hopefully we'll see each other soon. All right, bye-bye for now.